What's up, nerds? My name is Steve from Flipping the Nerd, and this is the Flipping the Nerd Show. We are episode 98. Um, I'm back. I haven't been really much online for the last almost 3 months. I took a complete break from most of social media, including this channel. I didn't expect to take a break that long. Uh, there's just a lot of things that went on during those 3 months. And I think in due time, I'll explain uh, what happened, why I left so long, why I left so suddenly. Um, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's very complex. And I don't want to bum out the show and return on such a down note as I already am. So, for what happened and why, it'll come out eventually, maybe. I don't think it's really that important. I am happy to be back, and you will see videos going forward. I think I'm at a place now where I can finally start to do these again. I have a lot of exciting ideas of stuff I want to do, and I think I'm going into it this time with a little bit more. I'm just going to put stuff out and see if people like it, as opposed to what do I think people are going to like, regardless of if I want to do it or not. So that's, I think, what is going to happen. But yeah, uh, I didn't know how to come back, what I should talk about on the episode I come back, but I was given a reason. I think a very strong reason, something I felt very strongly about, and I think it's a good time. So let's get into that. But before I get into kind of the subject of the show and everything, I just want to explain one little thing. It'll be explained in a lot more detail in the video that I'm doing this weekend, because I do think it's very important for me to do a video, explain what happened, and try to help in any way I can. You'll notice I'm doing the show alone right now. My co-host, JM the Flip, is not around. And there's a very specific reason for that, which like I said, I'm going to go into a lot of detail when I make a video about it this weekend. And hopefully you guys will watch it, because it is quite the story. But the short version of the story, I guess the sneak peek, is unfortunately he lost his house. And I mean, JM is I don't even know how to say it. So basically, I come from Montreal, which, by the way, is celebrating its 375th anniversary today. Montreal, Canada. It's an island in Canada. It's an island in the province of Quebec, which is like a state for you Americans. I'm very proud of being from that city. There's a lot of history in that city. It's one of the first cities in North America. And I lived there for the vast majority of my life, but moved out of there 4.5 years ago to the capital, Ottawa, which is in another province. But I do go back often. My family is all there still. A lot of my friends are still there, including JM the Flip. Now, being an island, things can happen, and they did this year. My hometown, like specifically the part of the island where I'm from, completely flooded over the last few weeks. I mean, I'm seeing on the news my grandparents' condo that looks like it's now Riverside, when in reality they're not really Riverside. That's what used to be the street. And they were evacuated, and they're fine. A lot of my members of the family are fine, but JM unfortunately isn't. He is somebody, he lives with his girlfriend and 4 kids. some of the last episodes you've seen him in, he was talking about how excited it was about moving out. It was a brand new house that he was moving into. He started doing work on his man cave. It was looking incredible. He had black lights at his bar, and it was just I couldn't wait to see it. Super good dude, and unfortunately, him, his girlfriend, and his 4 kids are now without a home. Everything pretty much was destroyed, other than what he could take out before the flood happened. And like I said, I'm going to make a video about it, explaining it in detail, because a lot of things came out of this. And one of the things that came out is I saw something in people in my hometown that I'm very proud of, that I want to discuss. And JM himself really persevered through this in a way that is incredible. I mean, the guy has such a positive attitude despite how bad his situation is. Even I saw him in the news where the mayor of the city was interviewing people that had been flooded, and they interviewed JM, and he like kind of showed people around, and he's explaining, running pumps so that the water stayed out of his basement, which unfortunately didn't end up working out because the flood became way too high. And after the maybe 10-minute segment, the mayor is going to the neighbor's house, and the mayor turns to the reporter and says, "Man, that guy's cool, right?" Because he's taking it in stride, and he fought it with, he fought that flood to the bitter end. He built walls out of sandbags. He ran, I think, 5 or 6 pumps to keep the water out of his basement, out of his man cave. He still, through this, was super dad, preparing 4 kids to go to school every day, and taking care of his girlfriend, and just, man, he's such an incredible dude. And it's very terrible what happened to him. So, like I said, I'll make a video about it. There's a GoFundMe page. I'm going to put the link below, but I'm going to talk more about that in a video this weekend. I want to do it properly and give him justice and show pictures of his house and what happened and everything. So, yeah, so just JM, you're probably not watching this, but I'm fully behind you, and any help I can, in any way that I can help with, I'm there for you, buddy. It's a terrible situation, and really unfair, man. Just super unfair. And for those saying, yeah, I know he moved on an island. In all the years I've been there, I never saw this. So it's been crazy this year, but it is what it is. So look out for that video. And the other thing that really, really struck a chord with me and really kind of put the final stamp that I'm coming back and making a show is news I learned last night that really hurt. It really sucks. I'm saying really too much, but sorry. For those who are in this YouTube thing, and the reason I started YouTube in the first place was to have interactions with people, with geeks that have similar interests as I do. And that is really I don't make money off my videos. In fact, I lose a lot of money on my videos doing giveaways and stuff, which I'm going to talk about at the end of the show. The next 3 giveaways I'm going to do very soon. For me, it's all about the interaction. I love to talk geek with people. In my daily life, there's not a lot of people who are geeks. The job that I have, there's nobody. I have a very corporate job, and there are very few people who are geeks. All people want to talk to me about is numbers and how to get rich. That's all people want to talk to me at work, and that's just the way it is. I understand it's a career path I chose. Well, it chose me, really, but that's a whole other story. So I have this huge channel, and I just love talking to geek to people. And I've met I've never actually met anyone because of the channel, but I've made some amazing some amazing connections with people that I've never met. I talk to them on Facebook, on Twitter, through my comments on their own pages. Just it's been an incredible experience, and I met some really, really cool people. And I'm so grateful for that, and for everybody that I have met or that I will meet, when I say meet, hopefully in person. That'd be really, really cool. But I'm talking about having conversations with and just shooting the breeze with. It's just such an honor, and I really take it seriously. And I really, even though, like I said, I've never met these people, I care about them, and I love having conversations with them, and it's a true honor. For every conversation I have, I'm honored that I get to talk wrestling or video games or horror or anything really. And one such person was goes by the name of Cody McClendon, aka Cody Mack. He's one of the first subscribers that I remember having. Not the first, but definitely in the first batch of people who started talking to me. And such an incredible dude. Every single time he commented on my videos or sent me a message, it was always positive. He always lifted up my spirits. He was just such a nice guy, and I love talking to him. Sorry, my chat's up, and there's I got Peeper in the chat. So how's it going, man? Sorry, I totally forgot about the chat. So there you go. So he was such a nice guy, and every time I talked to him on Twitter or Facebook, it was always a great conversation. We'd really talk in depth about certain things, and he was definitely one of the dudes that I was very, very happy to have as a friend on social media. I learned last night that he passed away. I don't know why. I don't know how it happened. I didn't know him personally. I don't know anyone in his family. I don't know any of his, friends from where he is. But having him on Facebook, I started seeing memorial like comments, and he just died. Just like that. No warning, from what I could tell. It was sudden. And I wanted to honor him because he was such a cool dude, and he's a geek. If you're watching the show, there's a good chance you're a geek too. And anybody in this community, which is so awesome, such an awesome community. It's terrible that something like this would happen. And I really wanted to kind of honor him and talk about just how cool of a guy he was. And I thought the best way to honor him is, one, dedicate an episode to him. I know he watched this show, and talk about the two things that we spoke about the most together. Even though I have a show that's separate for video games, I'm going to talk about video games on this show, and I'm going to talk about professional wrestling. Because Cody Mack, the two things that we had in common the most, as far as I knew, were those two things. We also had conversation about other things. We are both part of the amazing group that's Joe's House of Horrors. If you're at all a horror fan and you have a Facebook account, you need to join that group. It's literally my favorite people online. Most of my favorite people online belong to that group or are in that group. And every time I'm down, and the very little social media I did during the last 3 months were in that group, because they're such an incredible group of people that are just so cool and have great conversations And in all the time I've been there since Joe started that group, and I've been there since the beginning because I've known Joe for a while now. Um, I don't think I've ever seen anything negative. Well, at least I thought I saw stuff against, especially one particular person who used to rip people off. But even then, in that context, it wasn't negative towards each other. It was just negative towards the situation that people were in and kind of trying to help people out through that situation. But such a great group, and I urge you to join it. And I know Cody was part of that group. So I just wanted to talk about video games and pro wrestling. I hope you join me on this. It'll be quick. I'm not going to go on too long, but I definitely want to talk about those two things. And the way I'm going to present, I mean, I've talked about those subjects before. I mean, like I said, I have an entire show dedicated to video games, but I'm going to talk about my history with video games, my history with pro wrestling, in honor of Cody Mack. Just as we had conversations so many times about those things. And just hide everyone in the chat if you'd like to chat. I will answer a few things and try to interact as much as I can. So bear with me as I kind of power through this show and start slowly coming back every week and going back to my regular routine. So let's do this. So let's talk about pro wrestling first, as that's the one thing that Cody and I would talk about the most. We were both big fans growing up, and that continued more so for him than me. I admittedly really dropped off the pro wrestling train in the last decade, watching less and less of it. I always tend to watch the big events, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, stuff like that. But I definitely don't watch it to the extent that I used to. And so how I got into pro wrestling is actually a funny story. I remember it vividly too. I was very young. I was at my grandparents' house, and I was just flipping through channels. And I remembered vividly, and I was like 4 or 5. I tuned in to a channel on Saturday morning. It used to be, I think it was called Maple Leaf or Saturday something special, or it was like a Canadian wrestling show for the WWF at the time, or WWE now. And I'll never forget, as I flipped, it was Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, and they're cutting a promo for, I don't know what wrestler, to be honest with you, but they're cutting a promo, and they're talking to the camera like, we're going to come and we're going to beat you to the ground, and just like completely going after whoever they were going to fight that day. But as a kid, it was the first time really that I had seen, other than the news, somebody talking towards the camera, and I thought they were talking to me, and I got so scared. It frightened the hell out of me. So I ran to my grandparents crying, like, oh my God, these giant men in these shoulder pads with spikes coming out of them are yelling at me. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't understand. What is this? Sorcery. I was scared out of my mind. So my grandfather decided that he should sit me down and explain to me what exactly that was. And he sat me down and we started watching wrestling, and eventually it just took. And I just started watching it more and more. That's it. Thank you, Blue Corner. WWF Maple Leaf Wrestling. I knew it was something along those lines. Thank you. That's where the love started. And I started collecting those rubber figures, which I still have, and I really want to make a video about. Those old school, like these rubber wrestler figures that you couldn't pose, that you had to live with whatever pose they had. And for me, when I used to play with those, I used to, like, whatever pose they had would kind of determine how good they were for me. So if someone had a really tough, like a tough pose, like Rick Rude, I think, had a pose like this, and you can't really fight when your stupid wrestler is like this, so he would never win. Whereas Kamala, the Ugandan giant, was like this. Well, with this, you could do power bombs, and you could do power slams and clotheslines. You could just manipulate the arm enough for a clothesline, and and that's how it would determine my champions often, was those poses. So yeah, and then it just got on and on. I got sucked into Hulkamania in the 80s. I just hook, line, and sinker. Now, the older I get, the more I think I would be a Macho Man or a Macho Maniac rather than a Hulkamaniac, because I think, looking back now, Macho Man had a lot better matches than Hulk Hogan did. But I mean, that's just the way I was sucked into his just his persona and his amazing delivery and his aura in the 80s. I was just completely hooked in to Hulkamania. And at that time, you were really one of three things. You were either a Hulkamaniac, a warrior, or a Macho Maniac. I mean, it's just the way it was. You were one of those three. You couldn't be all three. You had to be one of those three. That was your guy. For me, it was Hogan. Until, and I also remember this vividly, I was watching with JM the Flip, who I talked about before, a tape in 1990. It was a brand new pay-per-view, or at the time they called them something. It wasn't called pay-per-view at the time. It was like Coliseum Video. It was, I don't remember. It's such a long time ago. And I watched Survivor Series 1990. And I was kind of getting over Hulk Hogan at the time. And I wanted to kind of find a new wrestler to back. And I mean, for those who know my channel and look behind me, I'm a horror fan. Always have been a horror fan for a very, very long time. So when in 1990, it was announced that there would be a mystery partner in the $1 Million Man stable against Coco Beware, Bret Hart. Coco Beware, Bret Hart. It was probably, oh my God, it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and I don't remember who the other one was, but out comes The Undertaker. And I was like, whoa, that's my guy. That guy is my guy, because he was like kind of horror and imposing and just so cool. Now, this is probably a gimmick that you would think would last a year or two, this dead man gimmick. But as we all know, he just recently probably retired at WrestleMania and had probably, I'd say, one of the best careers of all time, if not the best career of all time. I became an Undertaker fan and did not let up that Undertaker fan, that fandom ever. I mean, I met The Undertaker in 1996. It is to this day one of the most terrifying celebrity meetups I've ever had. He shook my hand, and I swear it was like shaking a rock, like a rock of a hand. The guy is huge in real life. I mean, in 1996, we're talking, I was 14. So I was actually 13. I hadn't turned 14 yet, but just, oh man, he was imposing as hell. I got his autograph. Was a cool dude, but at the time he was keeping what's called kayfabe, so he wasn't talking much. He wasn't allowed to, and that's one thing I think The Undertaker did so well to keep his gimmick good, is he kept kayfabe pretty much throughout his entire career, other than the time he was the American Badass in the 2000s. And for those who don't know what kayfabe is, it's a wrestling term for keeping in character. So in the 1980s and 70s, wrestlers, like, people didn't know if wrestling was real or fake. People were kind of on the line. Some people thought it was real. Some people knew it was predetermined. So wrestlers, to try to keep the aura and the mystique of it all, would continue being their characters even outside of pro wrestling. So, for example, if you were playing a heel or a bad guy, they would treat you like shit even outside of wrestling, um, just to keep that aura. And the Undertaker did that. Not that he would like treat you like garbage in real life, but he doesn't do social media. He doesn't do that many media appearances, and he keeps that mystique alive. And I thought that's one of the things that he did well. On top of having some of the most incredible matches of all time, I still maintain that the best pro wrestling match of all time, in my opinion, is Undertaker Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. It's close with Savage Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, but I think Undertaker Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25 is the best match ever. It just told a great story. It was exciting. Where I happened to be at the time helped a lot. I was at a bar with a lot of my good friends, and since it was, I don't remember if it was the main event or not. It might have been the one before the main event, but anyway, I digress. It was just so friggin' exciting. And I remember we were all a little drunk. There was a ton of people. The energy was high. And every single one of those near counts, it was a huge reaction in the bar that I was in. Just like, oh! And it was just incredible because no one knew, was Shawn Michaels going to beat The Undertaker or not. And you really didn't want the streak to end. Now, of course, it's ended and been broken twice. Well, he lost twice now at WrestleMania, but at the time, he still had the streak going, and I'll never forget that experience. So I do think WrestleMania 25, Undertaker Shawn Michaels is the best match ever, followed very closely by Savage Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. So there you have it. That's my best match. And the other thing in pro wrestling that I guess is my claim to fame is I was at the Survivor Series 1997 at the infamous Montreal Screwjob. Like I said, Montreal is my hometown, so of course I was there. I'll never forget that day. And the story that I have of that day is I was sitting. So I made my grandfather buy the tickets right next to where the wrestlers would come out, right? Because I'd go to all the house shows, and it's where the away locker room is for hockey. That's where the wrestlers would come out and do their entrances. So I asked my grandfather, who would get the tickets for me, can you get tickets right where the wrestlers come out so that at Survivor Series I can kind of either be seen on camera or at least, kind of give high five the wrestlers as they're coming in and out of the ring and in and out of the locker room. Well, as it turns out, because it was a pay-per-view, they moved the entrance to somewhere else because they wanted a longer entrance and a clearer entrance. So they set up a stage on the other side, and there was nothing there. And I was so bummed out when I got there. I'm like, oh my god, we paid so much for these tickets, and they're not even coming out of there. But the reason that's where the entrance was originally is because that's where the locker room is. So instead of getting the entrance there, that's where all the wrestlers would sit and watch the show for those who weren't watching on the monitors. So I got to actually speak to and meet a ton of wrestlers that night that just happened to be sitting next to me. And what ended up happening is, I met a ton of them. Ahmed Johnson, the Jackal. Oh my God, there's so many. Sonny, Chris Candido. No one huge. I guess the bigger wrestlers stay in the back, but still something. It was cool, as a kid to see all these people. But the one that was definitely marking me the most is Mark Henry. He sat right next to me, but he was a little bit lower because of the stage is like this, and the seats are a little bit lower. So I was kind of a little bit above him, And when the Bret Hart match came, I had a sign with pink glitter, for Bret the Hitman Hart, and I shook the shit out of that sign, just like, I mean, I'm a fan. The signs were not super big yet. It's right before the Attitude Era. I even think this kickstarted the Attitude Era because this is what really kickstarted DX and McMahon as a villain. So I consider the Montreal Screwjob to really be the catalyst of the Attitude Era. Anyway, so I was shaking the shit out of this sign, and then I look over, and Mark Henry's head is covered in pink glitter, and you can really tell. I mean, his head was covered in pink glitter, and I look to my left to my friend, and I'm like, "Holy shit, dude! He's gonna kill me! Like, if he finds out, he's absolutely gonna destroy me." And I was gonna actually apologize to Mark Henry, but that's when the screw job started happening in front of me. So he was told to go to the back right before it happened. And I just think to this day, the most controversial night, maybe in pro wrestling history, and Mark Henry's kind of standing back there with like a completely pink glittered head because of me. So, and then the screw job happened, terrible. No one knew what the hell was going on. It was weird. So, Bret Hart gets put into the sharpshooter by Shawn Michaels. The bell rings. Fans are confused. We're all looking at each other like, what happened? And Shawn bolts with the belt. McMahon gets spat on, and that happened like right towards me. So McMahon was facing like away from me, and Bret was facing towards me when he spat on him. And I was like, wow, that's weird. Like I knew I was smart enough, or I knew enough about pro wrestling to know who Vince McMahon was at the time. So to see him spit on his boss was incredible. And I wasn't sure if it was a shoot or fate or planned, or I didn't know what the story was. But Bret started motioning WCW towards like where I was, and then towards the camera. And it was just a crazy night, and I'll never forget it. And I'm happy I was there. I got to see wrestling history unfold right in front of me, me and glittered Mark Henry. So that's really the background of the wrestling that I want to talk about. I know Cody would have really enjoyed those stories. I have told some of those stories before in some form, but I don't know if I'd gone into as much detail. So that one's for you, Cody. And one more thing, video games. Video games is something I used to talk to Cody a lot about as well. We both are big video gamers. I actually gave him, I felt bad. He told me he couldn't afford to go on Xbox Live because I want to play with him. And he's like, sorry, I can't because I can't afford Xbox Live. So I actually gave him cards, Xbox Live cards, so that he can get online and play, because I really felt bad. And I wasn't using them anyway, so I was happy to do it. We were both big gamers. Trying to think what the last thing. Check what was the last thing we talked about as far as video. I know the very last thing we talked about was Joe's House of Horror group. That was the very, very last thing that we spoke about. But before that, what were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about Gears of War and playing Minecraft and backwards compatibility on Xbox. That was the very last conversation we had together. And yeah, like I said, I'm a big Xbox gamer. I still play Gears of War to this day. Gears of War is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm playing Gears 4 with my buddies. Once in a while, we play Horde mode, something we really enjoy doing together. And unfortunately, I never got to play Gears of War with Cody, so that's a shame. But I know he enjoyed the game as well. We both also like Minecraft, which I also didn't get to play with Cody, but I did get to play with people in the community. And I'm always down to play some video games with anybody. Just let me know what system you have, and I will play with you. I have all the systems except the Switch. just because I don't see a reason to get the Switch yet. Yes, Zelda Breath of the Wild is something that's absolutely I want to play, but I don't think one game is enough of a reason for me to get a system. At least not yet. I'll probably get it sometime. But if you want to play PS4 or Xbox One or PS3 is a little bit less because I have it in my gym, and I can't really play anything too complex because it's like on my like I use it on my treadmill when I just want to kind of slowly walk. I play Minecraft or something like or a trivia game or something like that. But I will play 360, Xbox One, or PS4 with you. It's a lot easier for me. Thought Factory in the chat says Switch is awesome and loves Mario Kart. Yeah, see, I forgot. Yeah, that's true. Mario Kart came out recently too. I think what's gonna push me to get it ultimately is when the new Mario game comes out in the fall. That's probably what's gonna push me over the edge as to when I get a console. There's always that one game for every console. It's always the same thing. There's always one console I'll get at launch. And then the other ones, I always wait for that kind of one game that's going to push me towards it. And I think Mario is definitely going to be the one on the Switch. It's going to put, and who knows, maybe around E3, Nintendo's going to announce some really cool stuff as well. Now, I know they're not going to be at E3 per se, but I heard that they're going to do some kind of thing and maybe announce some games there. So I'm really hoping to see some cool stuff. I don't know. What would you like to see? Thought Factory, or anybody who's in the chat, what would you like to see on come out on Nintendo for the Switch? Another franchise. I'm trying to think of the Nintendo franchises that would be cool that they haven't announced already. Of course, I mean, another Zelda would be great, and another Mario Kart, and I'd like to. We never got another Mario RPG, which is really a shame. That was a great game. So that was on SNES, which is one of my favorite systems of all time. In fact, when I heard that the SNES might get a classic console, kind of like the NES did, I will wait like all night outside for one. I was lucky enough to get an NES classic. It wasn't easy. I camped out in front of my local video game place. So I had a week off in December, and I had a week off in December, and I went every single morning, 3 hours before opening, to maybe get an NES Classic. And it turns out that I got one on the Thursday. So it took me 4 straight mornings to go 3 hours early and to get one. And even then, it was like close. It was just what a pain in the ass. And I hope Nintendo doesn't do that with the SNES Classic, but they probably will. So I'm not going to take my chances. I will wait in line probably day one this time. I didn't last time because I had to work. So I'll take the day off, wait a considerably long time. I don't care. I'm very patient. So I will wait. Think a new Twisted Metal game. I like the Twisted Metal, but that's a Sony thing. So I don't think the Nintendo would get a Twisted Metal game. But I love Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal 2 was such a great game for like something I played the crap out of Twisted Metal 2. I wanted to know every little pixel that you can break as an Easter egg. Just an absolutely great game. I don't play my PS4 very much. I tend to use it more as a VR machine than anything. Although I do play right now. I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 1.5, so I'm going through the Kingdom Hearts again, and I do intend to go through all the Uncharted's again. So those are the two things that I think I'm going to use my PS4 for. And like I said, VR. I'm in love with VR. I think VR is the way of the future. Just an incredible technology. It's still very in its infant stage, and there are some issues with it for sure. But I see the potential all over it, and I love going into the VR world and just playing some games. And ironically, my favorite VR game is something called Job Simulator, which is weird because there's so many. There's not a ton of great games yet, but That one, I just love being in that world for some reason. It's very simple. You just like you're playing 4 different games, so 4 different like jobs, and you get missions and stuff like that. It's just a really cool game. So I think that's it. I don't have much else in me. Just a couple channel announcements before I get off. Like I said, I'm going to put a video out this weekend that's going to announce 3 different contests, 3 contests in one. I made a promise in January that I would do a contest every single month this year. Unfortunately, because I left social media, I couldn't uphold that promise. But to me, the essence of it is to do 13 contests this year, and I will catch up by doing my March, April, May contests all in one, and then get back on the wagon in June. So 3 different contests are going to happen this weekend. It's super easy to enter. It's basically just answer a question and you're entered. I got a question. Have you played Until Dawn Rush of Blood? Yes, absolutely. I love. You know what? Yeah, that and Job Simulator are my 2 favorite games. That's a great game too. It's funny because me and my friend Rich are the only 2 people who have been able to get through it of all my friends that I know. Nobody that I know was able to get past a single level 2, not because they couldn't physically do it. I mean, not because it was too hard, but because they were so scared of it that they had to stop. It was just too scary, which I think is awesome. Too funny. Regular Mario game, back when they were waiting the new ones. Kids love Zelda. We play Mario Kart together. Cool. Peeper VR. Let me know, Peeper VR, what that would entail. What is a Peeper VR game entail? I'd love to know. Put it in the comments. I'm very curious about that. So like I said, 3 contests happening this weekend, and you're going to have till June 15th anyway to enter it. It's going to be a little bit drawn out because I got to put all this stuff together, but I think it's going to be worth it. I'm going to start making videos a lot more now. I feel now that I took that first step, I'm ready to really get back on the wagon and make some videos. I have a lot of stuff that I want to put out there, a lot of collections I want to show off. I still have my 2017 goals sitting next to me. I made 10 goals for 2017. We're almost June, and I have not made a single one of them. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to achieve those goals. And that's it. And on a final note, like I said, rest in peace to Cody. Incredible guy. I will miss him very much. I always look forward to seeing his comments. It was always positive. They would always lift my spirits. And I'm going to miss him terribly. I couldn't sleep last night just thinking about it. We lost a great guy, a great geek, just a terrific human being. And may you rest in peace. And just hug people you love, because you never know. You never know. You know, it seems from what I read of the memorials that it was, it was sudden, and people really regret not, doing that last conversation with him. And it's just, it's a shame. So, Cody, wherever you are, fist bump. You were awesome, and I miss you, buddy. So thank you for watching. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Don't forget to watch me on all the social medias. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything, all Flipping the Nerd. And that's it. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all on the flip side. Goodbye.